Sophie, how are you?
I'm great. How are you guys? Wow, it's so beautiful this morning. I've sat in St. David's. The sun is shining. There's a few clouds, but it's mostly shining and it's really, really lovely. So I'm feeling very happy this morning.
Oh,
Lovely.
lovely. What are you
What?
doing in St. David's then?
I've got a day of safeguarding training today. So we're supposed to renew our safeguarding training every 3 years. So I thought I think it was probably 2.5, nearly 3 years ago that I last did it. So I thought they're doing a round of safeguarding training. Let's do it now, get it done, make sure it's done and sorted. So safeguarding training today. And then, just it's in St. David's as well. I mean, you can't argue with that, can you really?
I was going to say
Safeguarding
that
training St. David's. There's worse places I could be doing it. So yeah.
very much so. I love about St. And of course, you spent a lot of time in St. David's, 18 months ago?
Yeah, so I was the curate in the cathedral. So I was in the cathedral for 3 years. I do miss it. I do miss the worship and I miss the rhythm. There is a definite rhythm to the day in the cathedral. So you're getting up and you go into morning prayer at 8 o'clock every morning. And then there's evening prayer every evening as well. And shrine prayers. There's definite rhythm to the week, which is really nice. I like being in parish because it's crazy and there's lots going on, but there is something nice about the rhythm at the cathedral. So if I could have both, I'd be a happy bunny, but I don't think I can have both. So.
You'd be very busy then.
Yeah.
It's Grati-Tuesday, Reverend Sophie. You're grateful for the sunshine and for the safeguarding because the safeguarding allows you to do some of your events because you've got a busy calendar.
Oh, I have, definitely, yeah. So I'm the Children, Youth and Families Missioner for the diocese, which means I spend a lot of time working with children and young people. And so it's just vital that I keep my safeguarding training up to scratch and that I spend time making sure that all of those things are done so that I know that I'm doing things correctly and that sort of thing. So yeah, absolutely vital for anybody that's working with anybody vulnerable, really. So yeah. And there's lots of events happening across the diocese, but particularly we've got sort of light parties and Halloween-esque type things happening. They're not Halloween. All Hallows Eve, which is the Christian festival that Halloween, of course, came from. But so there's that sort of thing happening. We've got some schools coming from Cross Hands, Clonetley Way, to St. David's on the 27th of October, which we're quite excited about. It's the first time some of those children will have ever been to the cathedral. So it's going to be good fun. And then, of course, there's all the other things that I get up to as well.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time you walked into the cathedral? Because I think I do. And you walk in there and you think, wow, this is vast. Like you feel that majesty of that building, don't you?
Yeah. Do you know, strangely, I was I come from Salisbury originally, and just after when we moved here, I started going through the discernment process to become a priest, and I decided after I'd gone through that process and before I was given a yes or a no, that I would go to Salisbury, my hometown, on a retreat. And it just so happened that I ended up having a conversation with Bishop Nicholas Holtom at the time. And he said to me, you must go to St. David's. Because at that point, I'd not been out here. He said, you must go to St. David's. It's a really thin place. So he knew about St. David's and he said that to me. And of course, little did he know, nor did I know, that I would be here doing my curacy. But at the time, so I came out here, and it's just as he said, a very thin place. And what he meant by that is it's a place where the divine, the God, the spiritual, and the earthly come so close together. Yeah. So in the Old Testament, they used to believe the Israelites would believe that the temple, the middle of the temple where the sacrifices would have been made, was a spiritual place, and that they built it high, sort of they built layers, so there were layers in the temple, and the higher the layer, the less people were allowed to go into that particular part of it, because the higher you were, the closer you were to the spiritual realm. And so when we hold the bread and the wine up in the Eucharist, the reason that we hold the wine and the bread above our heads when we're doing the Eucharist is so that it's as close as it can be to the spiritual realm. So there's like a very particular reason why we do things in the Eucharist, and a lot of it's historically based in things that we've done, have been done in years gone past. And it's that very thin space, that space between all things spiritual and our earthly selves, and that's what it feels like when you come to St. David's. And a lot of people will come in and they will go into St. David's Cathedral, or they'll go down to St. Non's Well, and they will experience often something that they can't articulate, that they can't really put their finger on what it is. And especially if they don't have a faith, often they find that quite difficult. They don't really know how to explain that. But there is something very special about certain points in the world, and St. David's is one of them. So yes, highly recommend that anybody should come here and have a look at St. David's. Yeah.
Lovely.
So, Sophie, you mentioned the prayer that takes place at different points in the day. Can anybody go along to that, sort of like at the 8 o'clock prayer?
Yeah, absolutely. So the regular rhythm of prayer is based in ancient traditions where we pray regularly throughout the day. And so at 8 o'clock every morning in the cathedral, there is morning prayer, followed often by Holy Communion, Eucharist, or Mass, as some people might know it. And then in the evening again, at 4 o'clock during the winter months and 6 o'clock during the summer months, there is evening prayer. And then on a Friday at 12 noon, there is shrine prayers in the cathedral. So they're all really good opportunities to sit and reflect. And there have often been times where we celebrate particular saints. So for instance, I think this Thursday is St. Francis, so I would imagine that the cathedral will be having a Eucharist midday or near to midday to celebrate St. Francis. So there's often worship happening in the cathedral, and so still a working cathedral. We still have we've got Canon Pastor Sheridan James, who is looking after the pastoral needs of the community, and then of course Sub-Dean Canon Lee Richardson, who is looking after the liturgical, the musical side of things, and then of course there's the Dean, who oversees all of that. So there are three, and then there are people who are in the cathedral. So there's Jill in the cathedral. So she is an unpaid priest. She spends her time doing the work without being paid for it. So she's a very special lady who works very hard for people, and she does it because she loves doing the job. I think we all love doing the job, but some people will do it without the need for being paid, or they'll have other jobs and other things that they do alongside it. So
very grateful to her on this Grati-Tuesday then.
Yeah, very much so.
Definitely.
Well, wow! Thank you so much for giving us that history of what happens in the cathedral, and it's amazing. Let's have a listen to people. We've got Victoria Biggs, who's just commented, "Hello, Reverend Sophie. Does Sophie listen to people who don't go to church?" Now, you've just mentioned, Sophie, about people of not of faith who go to the cathedral, because it is a landmark on your tourist calendar when you come here. So I assume that you're all ears for anyone.
I am definitely all ears for anyone and everyone. So my role is to something called the Cure of Souls, but also my role is to be pastorally responsible for all people really all people who live in my parishes. So anybody that lives in my group of parishes, but every priest, there should be a priest that covers most parishes across the diocese. And so yes, I will listen to anybody. I would always recommend that you speak to your local priest first, but of course I will talk to anybody that wants to talk to me. And obviously I come with a certain, I'm here to try and encourage people that actually the better way to do life is to do it in a Christ-like pattern. Now that doesn't mean that I'm expecting everybody to drop everything and run to church straight away, but what it does mean is that I'm going to try, that is my role, is to encourage people that actually a Christ-like pattern to their life is actually really significant and important for them. And so I'm there to talk to anybody, and we'll talk openly with anybody and answer any questions anybody has.
Lovely. Yeah. And you've given us those contact details before, haven't you, of how to get in touch with you, Father Newland, and within the diocese as well?
Yeah, so any of the priests in the diocese, they should all really have a Church in Wales email address. So we're all our first and second names at churchinwales.org.uk. So I'm Sophie Whitmarsh at churchinwales.org.uk. But you can probably catch me on social media or in any other places, really.
There we go.
Or send a message to Pure West Radio for you.
Send a message to Pure West Radio. I don't want to be inundated with messages with the crazy priests.
We'll put the automatic forward on. Sophie, have the best day at your safeguarding training today, and in that thin place of St. David's. And it is a majestic building. That's the word I use, probably to describe what you're trying to describe there as well. You just feel content when you walk into the door. And have a great time.
Thank you so much. And something you just said there, is the contentment that you feel, and that is hundreds of years of prayer, Tom. Hundreds of years of prayer that have gone in that building, and there's a sense that of peace that people feel when they go into the building. And so on that note, I will be praying for you all today on Pure West Radio.
Lovely. Thank you so much on this Grati-Tuesday. We're going to have some tunes. Gina's grateful for rhubarb and crumble, and Joe Bowling's been in touch, who's making crumble as well. So we've got a song on the way for Joe, so don't go anywhere. You can tune in on the ways that are scrolling across the bottom of the screen, and Sophie will catch up with you soon.
Take care, guys. God bless.
Take care.
Bye for now.
It's 9:20 here on Pure West Radio.
Eaton Evans & Morris is a client-focused law firm that has